Hi, my name is Nguyen, and I am a student in SPCE 610. And I just wanted to preface this FAI recording. There is a cat in the room that may occasionally just interrupt the recording, but we'll continue as usual with our recording, with our interview. So I'll just go ahead and mark the start of our interview with the word action, and then we'll get rolling. Okay. Ready?
Sure.
All right, and action. Hi.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm good, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Thank you for meeting with me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in today. How was the drive? Not too bad?
Drive was fine, a little bit of traffic.
Sure.
You know how downtown is.
Yeah. Traffic is not a fun thing. But yeah, no, thanks for coming in today. Regarding last week's meeting, we kind of talked about like Steve's like new progress as he transitions to school.
Right.
Yeah. I did review some of his records before our meeting today, so just kind of wanted to go over that stuff and kind of make sure things are accurate and stuff. In terms of our medical records, seems to be doing with all of his like physical milestones.
Yeah.
No like new allergies or any problems with like his hearing or vision?
No, he seems to, it seems to be, expected behavior.
Yeah. Let's see, diagnosis in July 2023. Still receiving speech and occupational therapy services. Looks like he's doing good. No new medications or anything like that?
No.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so, speaking of his transition to school, we like I said before, we did reduce his hours from 30 to 20 weeks, so he could attend school part-time. Kind of wanted to start off our meeting with that today. How do you feel that like school has been going for him so far?
In a lot of ways, I think it's predictable.
Okay, sure.
But I think that there are still in that predictability, there are like obvious obstacles that we were anticipating or something of that nature. Usually what happens is that my wife and I will alternate between picking him up and dropping him off. So when I was picking up one day, I had learned from one of the preschool teachers that he has trouble like just sitting down and listening during story time.
Okay, sure.
And then when my wife picked him up one day, someone was telling him what one of the teachers had commented that he's usually playing by himself during playtime or when they go out during recess. And sometimes he doesn't want to nap when when all the kids are supposed to be napping. So he seems to largely have his own schedule in mind and tends to sort of want to do his own thing at times.
Gotcha. So a little bit of concern with things like maybe like social interaction, perhaps.
Yeah.
Other things like maybe kind of like paying attention, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And obviously like nap time can be, I feel like it can be a little, be a little hard to get a kid to sleep sometimes, sometimes you're just full of energy. But okay, sounds good. How about at home? Do you think like him going to school has affected anything at home? Maybe how he's acting, or if maybe like his likes or dislikes have been kind of changing at all?
I haven't noticed anything that him going to school per se has changed. There are still problems going on at home. And particularly there are things that we are trying to teach him about that we are still struggling with.
How so?
Well, we're in the process of teaching him how to use the toilet. And,
nice.
And we're still bathing him regularly.
Sure.
And he can be a bit fussy in both regards. Toilet training, he can be quite stubborn.
Yeah.
And not want to use the bathroom when he's supposed to.
Kind of boring sometimes.
Yeah, he's still we still have him in diapers at the moment, but sometimes he'll do it. Sometimes he will follow directions, but other times he's just ignoring it. So I think we're making progress in that regard, but it's still taking time.
It can be a long process sometimes.
But he's getting at the age, particularly with bathing, where he is very fussy. He can have tantrums. He can yell. and he could start crying and yelling on the floor.
Sure.
I don't.
Tough.
I've not had him try to hit me per se, and I've not heard my wife say he's tried to hit her.
Okay.
But he's definitely has like those days where he's just really not wanting to be touched, and he finds it all rather invasive.
Gotcha. Okay, so a little bit of trouble with like kind of like his toileting, his bathrooming routines in a sense, right? Kind of getting ready for the day, things like that. A lot of hygiene stuff, maybe.
Right.
Kind of revolving around that stuff. Okay. Kind of moving on here. Just trying to get a little bit of more information about Steve since we last kind of talked about him. How do you feel that like his like language and like communication has been progressing?
He, I remember that like before we got him diagnosed, like it took it was like 8-12 months. He still wasn't really saying anything. But since last year, he has picked up on some language words. Like he can say sentences, but he's not necessarily the talkative person. He likes to use a lot of like guttural noises at times. But he's not.
Gotcha.
But he is verbal.
Nice.
And is using language.
Yeah, so talking a little more. Nice. It's good to hear. Definitely a step up from what we kind of talked about last time. And, it sounds like he's just kind of a kid who likes to, be to himself sometimes. So maybe he doesn't feel like the need to speak up, which is totally okay. I'm glad it sounds like he's trying to use a little bit more consistently, though.
Right.
Okay, that's nice. Cool. Kind of shifting back to, like, his difficult behaviors. Let's see. Do you feel that there are kind of going over like the behaviors we discussed and kind of like also like remembering like his history, like when he had like 30 hours of like ABA services and things like that. It seemed like crying and flopping, we kind of phased that out before his transition to school, and it seems like it's been kind of coming up again. But in terms of like those behaviors and also like along with like his toileting and like his bathrooming difficulties, do you feel like there's anything that you might want to kind of prioritize?
Well, I think toileting especially.
Okay.
Just because like it's not just about his hygiene, it's also just about the just general environment.
Right.
Okay. And especially now that like as he has more time outside of ABA and in school, like I want to be able to learn things like toileting, so that's not a problem, or we can sooner overcome that issue.
Gotcha.
As he tries as he tries to socialize and make friends. Like I would like not that to be an issue once as he gets older and as the kids get older.
Yeah.
And so that I think that and a lot of this some of this stuff is like we just need to take it on, like the bathing thing. But the I think that would be the case. I think teaching him to be able to communicate better is something I would that we could use some help with. That is behaviors about like, if he wants something, he needs to communicate that with words and not like start screaming or crying about
so
it.
we can kind of know what like he's trying to ask for,
right. And because that way then we understand what he wants and he understands how to communicate what he wants from us.
Gotcha. So kind of working on that communication, also those just like general life skills,
and then maybe giving him certain skills like understanding, like being able to be at least cognizant of the schedule around him. That is like he may not be sleepy, but other kids around him, they need nap time, and he needs to be cognizant of those around him, and that when he's going around making noises or playing with things, he's distracting the other kids, and he's going to keep them up, and he needs to understand that like, this is nap time, and he needs to be able to like relax for a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of like awareness things, awareness of like his own like biological needs, perhaps,
Right.
but also like kind of like the needs of others. It looks like,
Right.
socially, like you said with nap time and stuff. But okay, cool.
Yeah, sometimes he forgets that like other people have like needs and wants too, and that
Right.
they aren't necessarily what he wants at the moment.
Right. It can be a little bit tricky to kind of understand that. That makes sense. Okay. Cool. So moving on from that, kind of like I wanted to ask about like when you like see those like difficult behaviors. So like, for example, like crying, like tantruming, like when he has to like use the bathroom or shower or like, take a bath, right? I wanted to ask like how, if you could like maybe describe any of those behaviors like in more detail so I can kind of get a better picture of what they look like.
Right. So, yeah. So my wife and I, we both are trying to teach him to potty because like we could be busy. So like one of us needs to, and will, as a kid, he sees the bathroom multiple times. So, but she usually handles the bathing aspect.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
So, when he needs to go, he starts kind of getting squeamish and stuff, and that's usually a sign for me to, or if he has certain like bodily fluctuations, it's like he clearly needs to go,
like a little potty dance,
or noises, related noises. So, I might say, Steve, you need to go to the bathroom, and I think the idea is like I have to ask, and that usually will get him to go. But obviously, the thing that I'm trying to get him to go is like I want to teach him is go ahead and go to the bathroom.
Gotcha.
Don't wait for a parent to like say, "Hey, do you want to go to the bathroom?" And I think he's learning that. But I'm usually having to say, "Hey, you need to go to the bathroom."
Gotcha. So it sounds like you guys haven't like, obviously you kind of mentioned like it a little bit earlier, but like then taking steps to kind of like help him like through that process, eventually kind of like help him become independent in those like routines and stuff. Okay. Do you feel that like when he kind of engages in those difficult behaviors, do you feel like that they kind of look the same every time, or maybe they're kind of different, maybe in terms of like intensity or how long they occur?
I've struggled to know if like it's like there are some days where like he may not give up much of a fuss, or other times he does, and I haven't noticed really a pattern yet. I would like to think it's okay. He's acclimating to the process and he understands he needs to go to the bathroom. I haven't noticed yet that trend. At the very least, he knows how to, like, when he's in the bathroom, use the toilet. Like, he understands the flushing, he understands how to dispose of everything. So he knows to wash his hands, but it's me trying to tell him, like, you got to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
And that's sort of and that's the struggle we're having right now, is getting him to know that like he can use this. He doesn't need our permission. He needs to know that like this is a thing that you take your own initiative on.
So kind of like so like good days and bad days, right?
Right, good and bad. And I'm hoping that eventually he'll realize he needs to just do this on his own.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you feel that like so yeah, like it sounds like that like he knows like pretty much all the steps in terms of like toileting and bathrooming. You kind of mentioned like the difficulties of like you pretty much like telling him like when he needs to go. Do you feel like that like do you feel like that sometimes that triggers him, or do you think it's like something else that might be kind of causing those behaviors?
I don't know. I don't know if there's something that like he's finding repulsive or per se. I don't know if it's just simply like it's like just I don't know if it's an initiative thing. I'm really struggling to know if there's like some environmental trigger that's like, it could be that something's making him anxious.
Okay,
but I have not per se picked up on that yet. But I can be more observant. I can try to like see if if it's somebody or something is happening and it may make him anxious about going to the bathroom or something. I can take more note about that and see if that's what's throwing him off.
Yeah, with things like that, it can be a little bit difficult because like, like when we have to go to the bathroom, like it's like experiences that we only personally feel. Like when it comes to like communication and stuff, maybe it's hard to kind of communicate those feelings. So maybe it's it could be like a variety of reasons.
Right.
So it's okay if you don't know, but
yeah. I don't know if per se like I can take steps to say like you don't have to ask, but maybe you can say something. But if you feel like you need to enunciate something, just say I'm going to the bathroom.
Sure.
And that I don't know if that can be a step to say, okay, you don't need permission. If you feel like you need to say something, just say you need to go, and then go to the bathroom. Like this is something we all do as adults.
Right.
And then I haven't seen, because I'm not the one bathing him. I haven't like seen anything or what sort of thing. I just one thing I would like to assume is that maybe like while bathing we can sort of help ease him into like self-bathing. This may be just his way to communicate that he wants to like not have other people touch him in. And in a way we can take that's an opportunity. We can perhaps tell him how does he actually wash himself, and then move as he gets older. Like we can teach him like how to take a shower, take a bath by himself without needing a parent nearby or some. And so maybe the fact that he doesn't like to be touched, we can take that as an opportunity to like tell him like how to wash himself without needing like a parent directly touching him.
Okay, so yeah, it seems like the difficulties kind of like vary like in terms of like the task. Like you said, sounds like he doesn't want to be touched like while bathing, and maybe like toileting is like a whole like different like challenge for him. Maybe like I said before, it could be a variety of reasons. Maybe he's having like some stomach problems, like in terms of the toileting.
Right.
Maybe he just finds it boring. He'd rather like do something else.
It could be that.
It could be a variety of reasons like that. But that's good stuff to know. Okay, will definitely help me kind of moving forward here. You haven't noticed any like maybe like more violent behaviors, have you? Anything like that? Anything like for a cause of concern?
It's, other than tantrums and the fits, like he's not hit me, and I haven't heard from the teachers. I haven't heard from my wife that he's hit any of hit her or hit the kids or hit his brother. And it's largely the screaming and the tantrums. That's the problem. Usually, like that's when he gets emotional. It's he can be like he can be a bit unruly, but I don't think he's engaged in like directly like physically violent behavior.
Okay, gotcha. So just kind of more so like concerned with like the disruptiveness maybe of those behaviors.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I think what I notice is that he likes to actually be by himself usually. Like, I think that's his defense mechanism. Is the isolation. Like, it goes back to what I've been hearing, or what we've been hearing about, how he likes to play by himself and he's sort of doing his own thing.
Okay.
I think that's sort of how he approaches things. He's not an actively aggressive. He doesn't seem to be actively aggressive or hitting people when he doesn't like things.
Gotcha. So it can definitely, like be like a... kind of like a difficulty when kind of taking that into consideration, like maybe like when he's alone and you're trying to like you guys are trying to help him, like obviously like learn like those toileting and like those bathroom skills. It may be kind of conflicting, it sounds like.
Right. And as he gets older, I'm hoping that like he doesn't get into like violent behavior.
Sure.
Right. But as like hormonal, as he's older and things start changing.
Yeah.
But at the moment things seem to be fine.
Okay.
In that regard.
That's good.
Tantrums, all that, that's still a problem. That's still something we're struggling with.
Right. We'll keep trying to work through that, obviously. Okay, cool. So kind of piggybacking off of excuse me, events that kind of happen before those behaviors. We kind of briefly discussed like triggers that maybe like kind of maybe contribute like to those behaviors like happening. Do you feel there's like anything like specific at all? If not, that's okay, but just kind of...
Yeah, I'm trying to think that. Like, if there's something like back at home that like just really sets him off.
Okay.
Yeah, because you had mentioned like dietary things, and I'm like trying to think like if he's had like tummy issues or anything.
Sure.
And nothing's really stood out to me per se about like his like any dietary issues. Like,
Okay.
so, but what we could do is say like, oh, maybe he like is having fussy issues, or maybe we can take, maybe we can be a bit more observant to see if there's something going on with that.
Okay.
He can. I know he doesn't like loud noises.
Okay.
Or at least things that are loud and it's not a noise that he's initiating or in control of.
Okay.
So like, if there is like construction going on outside, and it's like near our place, like that repetition, so that like sometimes he likes that, sometimes he doesn't, but it will trigger him in some capacity.
Okay.
And I used to like having music on all the time, but now I use my headphones because sometimes he gets a bit fussy around with stuff like that.
Right, and I can kind of see, how like a toilet flushing can be loud too, or like running a bath could also be loud. And I guess it kind of ties into like also like when you mentioned like him not being like not liking being touched. It can probably serve as another trigger. But
I can imagine that what we could try to do is usually we will put him in the tub, turn the faucet on, and then bathe him in the process. What we could possibly do is fill the tub first, then put him in the tub, and so he's not, and see if his behavior is changing for the better, like he becomes less fussy about in the bathing process. Because if that's what's triggering him, then perhaps we can intervene and we can change up the process and like fill the tub first, then put him in to bathe.
Okay, yeah. That doesn't sound like a terrible idea.
I don't know if that'll solve everything, but it'll be interesting to see if that actually changes his. Because it could also just be that like he doesn't like to be touched like that.
Sure. Yeah. There's you could always try you could always try those things at home if you feel like it's necessary. I will probably be kind of like holding off on like maybe any like intervention suggestions until like we kind of finish out this interview and I've had the chance to at least kind of like look through like all of the data that we kind of talked about today. But definitely kind of like throwing out some ideas there that we could potentially like kind of think through a little bit more, kind of help Steve as best we can. But okay, but at least you guys are very involved. It seems like very involved in his development, which is really nice. Lots of support. Just kind of just trying to kind of push more of that independence. It sounds like.
Right.
Okay. Very nice. Let's see. Is there kind of referring to like after like you kind of see those behaviors? How do you like typically respond to them? Like once he kind of engages in those tantrums?
Yeah. So I usually, sometimes I may raise my voice, but I never like yell at him.
Okay.
Like, I try.
It can be frustrating.
Like
it's hard.
It's frustrating, but like I raise my voice to be authoritative, so I'm not, so I can be a bit more commanding. But I try not to like lose my composure in front of him. And my wife, she doesn't. She's the same way. She's not losing. Like it's even when we're both exhausted, I think we have talked about this and said like we don't lose our cool with him. Like we don't, because we ultimately want him to see us as sources of comfort.
Sure.
And as much as we are authorities in the house. So because if we start losing like just our composure in front of him, like that's just gonna scare him, and I don't really know what that's gonna do besides create further obstacles for him to trust us.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess that's what we try not to do, and that's what we don't do. We don't start just yelling at him. Instead, we I sometimes think about like some, if I have, and this is sort of the behavior like before he was diagnosed, like if he was being fussy like at a grocery store, like usually like I'm holding on to him tightly, not like squeezing him painfully, but so he's not like distracting others. And, at the same time, not being like physically punished for anything.
Right.
So, so I think we try to engage in some restraining behaviors that isn't us like being us being like violent or anything. Like it's just like us trying to calm him down.
Okay.
And so that's usually what we're trying to do. Like so certain bodily interventions, I guess you can call them.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like too restrictive or anything. He's still a young kiddo. Like picking him up and like carrying him around. It doesn't seem like too inappropriate or anything.
Right. Yeah. He's still a toddler, and 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 sometimes we may be shushing him.
Okay.
Or start speaking softly, trying to get to make him feel safe and calm him down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, essentially being firm, but not necessarily like screaming or yelling. Not to scare him or anything like that. Just trying to be firm, so you kind of sounds like communicate like what we're trying to do. As clearly as possible.
Yeah, and I think even when we're not having issues with him, usually what we're doing is if we need to call for him, like we try to go to like his room, look at him, and tell him what we need from him instead of calling from across the room. And part of it's like just so I think part of the reason is our presence there can catch his attention more, and so he's actually paying attention to us, looking at us face to face.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And you kind of mentioned like helping him calm down with like things like hugs and like like gentle voices and like whispers and stuff.
Right. And of course, some of that behavior may be conflicting. Like sometimes he doesn't like to be touched.
Sure.
But, but at the same time, I think he's a kid, and sometimes like even he wants to have some bodily interaction with like to know that things are okay.
Yeah. Have you? Oh, sorry. Go
ahead. We have been looking into like things like getting him like toys or something like soft objects that like he can hold on to if he's fussy. And we can like pull it out or tell him to get that toy if he's feeling upset. Something like a security blanket.
Gotcha.
But like a plush toy or something.
Okay. So it sounds like you guys have been trying like other like methods of like trying to help him calm down too.
Right.
But okay, nice. And again, we kind of touched on this before as well, but just kind of wanted to ask this to kind of maybe maybe point out any other specifics. But do you kind of like feel like when he's like engaging those different behaviors, so like another example again, kind of like tantruming like during toileting or any other like instance, do you kind of feel that he's trying to like communicate something specifically, or if there's like another reason, like so
I would like to think that yes he is, but and sometimes I feel like I know what he's talking about, like like the toileting, like usually it's like when he's having like some of his fussiness, it's like, oh, he clearly wants to go to the bathroom or something, and that's what I'm saying, hey, do you want to go to the bathroom, or that, so there's that aspect. Sometimes there's like times where like he may yell or something, and it's like, what do you want from us?
Gotcha.
And usually like we may not know, we'll try to guess, but usually we just have to go through a routine of maybe he wants a certain object, or he's hungry or thirsty, and we try to go through the process like until like
all your options
and try and figure out like what is it that he actually wants. And again, that's why we hope that he can start speaking and using sentences more, so he can actually communicate what he wants. And sometimes he does that. Like he is, he'll sometimes say like he wants he wants mother, or he wants to see dad.
Gotcha.
So he'll do that. So he seems to understand how to communicate, but it's we need to like be able to get him to like say like, oh, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Do you need to go to you need to go to the bathroom? So there are areas where he still needs to be able to communicate with words. So that way we're not having to play a guessing game.
Gotcha. So it sounds like, like sometimes it does sound like, he wants to tell you guys something, but maybe he just doesn't know how.
Right.
Sure. Okay. I think that's kind of it for our meeting today. It seems like, majority of our goals kind of revolve around like those like independence with like those routines and kind of like the communication goals. And it seems like his behaviors aren't too like intense or anything. And it seems like you and mom have been very involved in trying to like support him through those difficult times too. But okay, cool.
Yeah, and the preschool, like, they identify the issues, and it's like he's not the first kid they've had to handle.
Right.
So they So I don't think anything has been out of the ordinary, at least for them. And they just tell us, like, be alert, talk to him about certain behaviors, and so that he can gradually improve on them when he comes back to preschool every day.
Gotcha. Okay, very nice. Let me see if there's anything else I have for you. But yeah, like a lot of this stuff sounds like, difficulties that, maybe like a typically developing, child might have as well, at this age too. Like I said before, toileting and like, those kinds of routines that aren't, necessarily like night and day or anything like that. Definitely like a gradual process. So definitely, try and come up with like interventions to kind of help you guys through that and stuff. Especially trying to apply that to like the school setting as well. But this has been very helpful. I'll go ahead and take a look at all this information that we kind of talked about today.
Right.
And maybe we can try and come up with some interventions that may help with like the development in those areas too. I'll definitely keep in contact with you about all this stuff. And yeah, that should be everything. Is there anything else you might need from me today?
No, just simply take what you have, and like if you have any advice for us after looking at all of this, let us know.
Of course.
And we will, during our next meeting, I'll update you about what's going on. Like, is he getting better? Is he getting worse?
Awesome.
And what new troubles or issues we're having with them.
Of course.
Yeah. So is there anything else you need to know from me?
I think I have everything I need. Thanks again for coming in today and taking the time. But yeah, I'll see you at our next meeting.
Thank you very much. Yep. All right, you have a good day.
Yep, you too. I'll see you later. And cut. All right. Awesome.